It's the second Friday of the month, so you know what that means. Yep, it's time for the Another View Roundtable. Today's discussion, it's all about politics. Republican presidential hopeful Herman Cain blames the unemployed for their lack of employment. The Senate refuses to accept the president's jobs bill, and the panel will answer these questions. Are you satisfied with presidential hopeful Rick Perry's response to the name of his hunting lodge? And can you really sit on a local school board when you live and work in another country? I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Your favorite pundits, Roger Chesley, Carol Pretlow, and Bill Thomas are here to talk about it all right after the news from NPR.
Discussing the issues and celebrating the successes of the African American community. This is Another View.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. You know, I wish you could be in the studio with us whenever the roundtable gets together because the conversation just starts flying fast and furious. And we've got a lot to talk about today. So let's get to it. Let's introduce our roundtable, Roger Chesley. He is columnist for the Virginian-Pilot, and you can read Roger's columns on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Hi, Roger.
Hello, Barbara.
Welcome back. Good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
Norfolk State University political science professor Carol Pretlow. Hi, Carol.
Hi, Barbara.
I'm so glad you're here.
I am too.
And community activist and our favorite, Mr. Bill Thomas. How you doing, Bill?
Life is beautiful. Life is great. Life is precious. I'm glad to be here today with all you fine folks.
Absolutely. We're glad you're here, too.
Amen.
Wil LaVeist, who normally joins us, could not be with us today, but he will be back next month. Now, before we get started, we want to give a very special congratulations to our very own Roger Chesley, who was awarded the Carmage Walls Commentary Prize from the Southern Newspaper Publishers Association. He was one of two finalists for the award and received the prize for his columns about the death of Michael Knockett, the homeless man run over at the ocean front in the summer of 2010. Roger, congrats.
Thank you. I was very proud of the columns I wrote on that and the hopefully trying to bring some attention to the whole issue of what the beach is doing about homelessness and what our region is doing about homelessness. It was a very freaky accident, a very tragic accident, but maybe there will be something good that actually comes out of that. And the civil suit is still continuing on that particular case as well.
The award itself, pretty prestigious award.
Well, apparently 400 newspapers are in the organization. The category the pilot is in is for 50,000 circulation and over. And I was just I was proud and very honored to have gotten it and got a little bit of financial gift for it too.
That always works.
So they did put their money where their mouth was.
Absolutely, that's awesome. All right,
well, thank you.
Congratulations. All righty, let's get to it. Mr. Herman Cain, new NBC Wall Street Journal poll says he's ahead with 27% of the Republican support, followed by Mitt Romney with 23% and Rick Perry at a distant third with 16%. Now, Cain has had some controversial things to say about unemployment and racism in America. Let's listen to a clip from him about his feelings on unemployment first.
I don't have facts to back this up, but I happen to believe that these demonstrations are planned and orchestrated to distract from the failed policies of the Obama administration. Don't blame Wall Street. Don't blame the big banks. If you don't have a job and you're not rich, blame yourself.
Bill, blame yourself?
Absolutely. Absolutely. What's wrong with you? You said controversial? These are truth-telling. Liberals don't want to hear the truth.
Why
they don't want to hear the truth.
In today's economy, why is it the unemployed's fault that they're unemployed?
Because they're typically, you don't want to hear the words, and bear with me, lazy.
Okay.
Don't want to work. Big-headed, selfish. I mean, egotistical. They can't do the jobs that they need to do. I mean, what else do you want to say? The man is 100% right.
Carol is about to explode. Go ahead, Carol.
I think you take these positions just to be controversial yourself. Because first of all, not having a job and trying to find a job is a job in itself. Have you ever been unemployed?
No.
No. Okay. Well, then that's why you don't
because
know.
I'm willing to work at a McDonald's.
I'm willing
to work wherever it's necessary to bring money into my family.
Bill,
a lot of us are.
No,
but
you're not.
All right, let Carol get her point out. Go ahead,
Carol. A lot
Carol.
of us are willing to work. Don't try to sue me because I know this. I know that a lot of people are willing to work. They're sending applications, resumes. They're going on interviews, and it's not happening. And they're not saying, I'm not going to take this kind of job because it's demeaning. They will take any, but the jobs aren't there.
I love one of the first things that Herman Cain said was, I don't have facts to back this up.
Exactly.
So we're not going to ask which body part he pulled it out of to get his comments. But to think that people in this economy, given the recession that we've been through, it's their fault if they can't get a job. It's just one of the craziest things I've ever heard. I mean, if unemployment were at a low level now, 4%, 5%, maybe you could believe that. But is he serious? And that's a lot of things that comes out of his mouth. Is he serious?
Yes,
Which
he
is amazing to me that he is now in first place in a lot of polls. It will be interesting to see what happens when there actually are votes that are going on and the primaries come up if he's going to
now in this whole Republican primary season, there have been lots of folks who have risen to the top and then they've fallen and so forth. Do you think he has the staying power?
Oh, yes, he does. I truly believe he does. People are tired. And what he was saying, he didn't have the facts as to why those lazy kids were out there in New York laying up doing nothing. That was the comment that he was referring to. There are a lot of
people that aren't kids out there. A lot of these people are in their 60s and 70s. You've seen pictures of the actual
I haven't seen a lot of 60s.
Yeah, he was referring to Occupy Wall Street.
And I didn't see a lot of black people.
I have seen pictures
and
of
I didn't see a lot
there.
of black people either. So I was proud
too.
to say.
I did.
I saw a few splattering.
Well, it must have been a Republican convention then, I guess.
Well, no, it was lazy people out trying to beg the government to do something that they should do for themselves.
Oh, okay.
There are jobs out here.
What if?
Excuse me, let me just get this out real quick.
Go ahead.
We just did some layoffs at the paper because the paper is worried about whether it's going to have enough of the profits, whether it's going to take care of the folks it wants to take care of. And, and these things have been consistent. We've lost several positions in our newsroom since 2007. I mean, to think that people aren't trying to get jobs, it's ludicrous. Ludicrous.
That's just not true. And the whole
what's not true?
The truth is, paper newspapers is a industry that's transforming, and that you could see that 10 years ago. With these devices here, the laptops and all the other things that you have out here are people's ability to get news. So you needed to start doing something to re-educate yourself so you could do something to be productive. If you laid up there and waited for the end to happen, it's going to happen. So that's
what
your
about
fault.
Teachers?
That's not my fault.
What about teachers and firemen and policemen who, through no fault of their own, don't have employment now? And they are looking. But teachers, particularly in this area, where are they going to go?
The teachers, it's their fault because they're not educating the kids. You just read in your newspaper that Norfolk has the worst school system in Virginia. A quote out of your newspaper. If we were educating kids,
thank you for reading it, Bill. Too.
Yeah, I do read it absolutely. But what I'm saying is the fact that if teachers were doing their jobs and educating these people, then they would go out and get jobs. We'd have more taxes, and we'd have more opportunities.
But let me throw this out to you, Bill, just because I really want to get some perspective on this. Two things that you said. First of all, you would be willing to go work at McDonald's and other places. But realistically, because someone of your stature and your education and so forth, if you put in an application at McDonald's, do you truly think they would hire you?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, come on.
If I'm willing to take $2 or $3 an hour, whatever they pay, yes, they would.
No, because they say you're overqualified.
No, they would not. I'd just go there. Then I would go do the job. I would get hired.
You can't do the job until somebody hires you. And if you came with your qualifications, the first thing an owner or a manager would say is he's overqualified and
true.
I'm going to hire somebody else.
That's just
then
not true.
Yes, it is.
That's not true. And actually, I saw on the Today program, it was 3 weeks ago, there were businesses and entrepreneurs said that they had jobs galore for people who had the skill sets to do the jobs. You got to be trained in science, technology, engineering, and math. And if you were lazy when you were in school and didn't take those tough subjects so you could get the job, it's your fault.
Yeah, but some people don't have the ability for those particular subjects. I mean, some people say that they have trouble writing, which I feel is most people should be able to do.
Thank you.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand the fact that there are it's tough to get jobs in those particular fields, but you also have to have people who have the aptitude and or the skills in that. And I have a daughter who is doing very well.
Absolutely.
And I tease her all the time that she's going to be taking care of her parents. But I have another child who's studying English and another child who's studying art. And because that's what their interest is.
Hang on a second. Carl is joining us from Norfolk. Hi, Carl. You're in the air.
Thank you for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead.
Yeah. I think that we're looking at Mr. Cain and doing him less than justice. For example, during his tenure as CEO, he did hire felons, but other people did not. Now, there may have been specific criteria for it, but that is true. The other is it may be a way to provoke the public into looking at the fact that because a door is closed, and I do mean a singular one, people should not stop. And the third is if one wants a job, one can always become a private entrepreneur in many of the positions. And I'm African-American. I want to say that because I can kind of hear some people saying, well, maybe he doesn't. That's not the case. The other thing is someone said, well, if you're a teacher, you can't do that. Yes, you can. There are many unemployed teachers who have decided to become tutors, making equal to, if not more money in some instances than they did in the system. There are not a lot of them, but there are those who are doing it.
Okay.
Give the man a break.
Amen.
Thanks for calling, Carl.
There you go. He just nailed it on the head.
Well, I'll say this. There is this belief out there that everybody can become an entrepreneur, and it's just not true. Not everybody has the skills to do it, and a lot of small businesses go under within the first few years that they start.
Do you know if you looked at a census tract on self-employed people in the city of Norfolk, do you know where you're going to see a high percentage of self-employed people?
Tell me, Bill.
In the housing projects. You know what they're doing? They're doing hair. They're doing nails. They're doing small repairs. So that's not true. It's just not true, Roger.
Well, I tell you what.
But for them, maybe it works. It doesn't work for everybody.
I wouldn't know how to do
Everybody's
hair.
not guaranteed a life by me and my taxes.
Everybody's
everybody's not going to make it.
I don't think you're going to guarantee much of anything for me, so that's why I don't come to you.
I'm not going to guarantee you anything. That's true.
Okay. While we're on the subject of Mr. Cain and some of his other comments, he also had a lot to say about racism in America. So let's listen to some of that sound, and then we'll talk about it.
I don't believe racism in this country today holds anybody back in a big way. Everybody's definition of the American dream is different. You owe the opportunity for a level playing field.
And do blacks have a level playing field right now with whites?
Many of them do. Many of them do have a level playing field. I absolutely believe that. People sometimes hold themselves back because they want to use racism as an excuse for them not being able to achieve what they want to achieve.
Okay.
Oh, he's right on again. Does racism exist? Absolutely it does. Has racism ever stopped me from doing what I wanted to do? No, it hasn't. Has the obstacles that I ran up against with 20 white people or 20 black people, where's the obstacles I ran up against? The 20 black people. So, yes, he is telling the truth, and, of course, there's racism, and you have to do something to get around it. But what we have done as African Americans, instead of us going and living in our communities and going back and helping, we ran away from our black communities. We're out here with the white people and then saying they're racist against us. It's insane.
Okay, but just because you might not experience racism and maybe Bill doesn't and maybe I don't, that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
Well, I said it does exist.
There are slivers of truth to what he said, but we know from statistics that it's not true, that his statement is not true when it comes to the justice system, because blacks and Latinos are treated more harshly for the same crime at every stage of the system than whites are. We do know that if you look at most Fortune 500 leaderships and the officials there, and if you they don't look like the people sitting around this table. If you look at the luncheon the other day where I accepted my award, the room was full with about 160 people. You know who there were four blacks in the room. My son, myself, and Maurice Jones. Everybody else was white. So
now, okay, let me play devil's advocate for a minute.
And most of these people were executives at newspapers.
Exactly, except that people will say to you, they'll come back then and say, but Maurice Jones was there, and he's the publisher.
Okay, we got one. Okay, we got one out of 160.
But a big one.
Well, what about all the other newspapers that were represented there? I mean, so, yeah, there are certain things that maybe race doesn't play into everything, but it still has an effect in a lot of things.
Roger, what high school did you go to?
I went to Gonzaga College High School in Washington, D.C. I went to Howard University.
But is that a public school or a private school?
That is a private school that I got a scholarship to go to.
And that's why you got that award.
Because he went to a private school?
Oh, what about Howard? What did that have?
And that's why you got the award.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Because he went to a private school?
That is
what
correct,
you're saying?
because the public schools in Washington are producing the kind of scholars that can write and be intellectual.
But I went to Catholic schools for 12 years. That's what my parents
and so you
decided
got morals?
to go to.
I'm not fighting that. I'm not arguing against that.
Well, but wait a minute, because I went through Baltimore City's public schools my entire career, and I mean I don't think I've done too badly.
No, you've done great, and you defeated all odds. You are an example of how people can do well.
Didn't you go to public schools?
Didn't you hear, Bill? Didn't you go to public school?
Didn't you go?
Yes, I went to public.
Okay.
But it was a different public school because it was a military school. So we were at Fort Leavenworth, so it was a military school, and those schools always do well.
So you busted that at Fort Leavenworth. I'm glad to hear.
Yeah, sure did. I had a lot of friends there, man.
I was just going to say, I mean, to look at us as an example might not be applicable to today because, 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
Why not? We're old.
I mean, we are older. I went to segregated schools until I went to college. And these were not schools that had rich libraries or anything. Yes, my classmates and I did pretty well, but that does not mean that this generation of people who are experiencing some problems in the school system, that they are going to do comparably unless we eradicate all vestiges of racism.
But what Mr. Cain has said, which I think is on target, is basically if you don't succeed in life, if you don't grasp the silver ring or the gold ring, it's basically your fault.
But do you think that he says that he believes that blacks have a level playing field? Do you believe that?
Do I believe that blacks have a level playing field? No, I do not. I think there are challenges out there, but I think that we can fight to get it. I think we have to fight in a unity to get it. But most of these Uncle Toms running around out here are not fighting it. They're just taking and pimping the system. So they're not doing it. They moved out of their neighborhood. They abandoned their people. They have abandoned every vintage of the people that got you through Baltimore, or the people that got me through Kansas City, or the people that got you through where you went, or even Roger in D.C.
You say abandoning, but I think it's more complicated than that. A lot of people might have fled the inner city because they were concerned about crime, because they were concerned about safety, because they were concerned about the quality of the public education they were going to get there.
And rightfully so.
And you want to have the best education for your children, too.
And, Bill, you tried the experiment. I mean, you and I met back in the 90s because you had moved into Park Place.
Yes.
At that time, it was not the same Park Place that it is today.
It's a little bit better.
But ultimately, you wound up having to move out.
I had to move out because
for your children's sake.
Because they had a gangs fighting over. Church Street gang was fighting with the Park Place gang, and they rode down our street with some machine guns and kind of blew out the cars. And at that particular time, you just cannot put your kids in that kind of danger. But so we went on the edge of the community. But actually, let me tell you what happened. The two gang leaders that did that, or were responsible for that, told me that they were going to take care of that, and they came and apologized. They said, "Mr. Thomas, we know what you're trying to do. And we're going to make sure that don't happen on the street again." So I understand.
Yeah, but there is, I mean, you talk about abandoning neighborhoods. There's some of it is racial, but some of it is also class. And you want the best things for your family. You want the best conditions for your children. And if you don't see it in a particular neighborhood, you're going to vote with your feet and go somewhere else. And I think that that is that's regardless of race.
Carol, anything you
No,
want to add before
I was agreeing because I think that, I don't know that term abandoning. There's also the idea that if there are other opportunities available and maybe there is an opportunity in another neighborhood, you might, even if you're a single person, this is a free country. You want to do what is best for you and, as you said, your family. So why is it considered abandoning? Particularly if you devote time, attention, and give to the communities that are unrepresented or who have some problems.
Because the one thing that happened to me in my little situation, and the reason I had to go because my mom and dad and everybody else was on me, but outside of that, the criminals who did the activity came back to me. What I was expecting was for the middle-class African-American who were children of Martin Luther King, I thought they would come back to help support and be helpful.
So you thought what you were doing, because you moved back into the neighborhood,
somebody
you
else
thought there would be a mass movement to
yeah,
come
they
back.
could. Yes, they could. The same thing I did. In fact,
but maybe they had tried that, been there, done that, and knew
that could be true.
And that might have been a
that
futile.
Could be true. That could be true.
Okay, keeping on with our political movement here.
Yes.
Rick Perry, also along the lines of racism, some say, and so forth. He's been taking a lot of heat about the issue of the name of his hunting resort, and it took him 4 days to come out with an explanation after it came to light that the name of the resort, I will say the name of the resort as we refer to the land, it was called Niggerhead, and there's been a lot of controversy over his response to it. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
All of us agree that the word that was on that rock is a very offensive rock and a very offensive word. At the moment we had to move to paint over that rock, we did. I think there were some very much and strong inconsistencies and just infactual information that was in that story. I know for a fact in 1984 that rock was painted over.
I hear some real uncomfortableness in his voice. I don't know what you guys hear.
Yeah, that's
what do you think,
loser.
Carol?
I think he sounded uncomfortable, and I think he was trying to craft an explanation that would be politically expedient.
Well, there's no way he could. There's nothing he could say that would make it really good, and it was. I was stunned that name would have been around in the 1980s. I could have understood it maybe in the 1960s, but the 1980s, that was
as
the
a
thing.
matter of fact,
and it's Texas. Maybe I should have known better. But
but in fact, the federal government has been going to systematically changing the name because apparently that prefix is attached to many different land, mountains and rivers and so forth.
Right.
What does it mean?
That means that he's not going to be president of the United States. That's the number one issue. But outside of that, it's just unfortunate. But the reason I can look at it, in 1984, Mr. Perry was a Democrat. He was a Democrat. He didn't get right until Republicans would not accept that. So they had to change the name and white over it before he became a Republican. So why didn't the liberal Democrats do anything about it when he was
I didn't hear anything about it until just recently, the last few weeks. I mean, I never heard anything about it outside of Texas.
I understand. No, I never heard of it at all. But still, at the time, where were the Democrats? Where were all the African Americans who worshiped the Democratic Party? And he was a leader in the Democratic Party at the time, trying to get people elected as Al Gore and all the rest. And
maybe he wasn't inviting them to his ranch.
Oh, they were going out there. Oh, yeah, they were going out there joking about it, man. Come on, give me a break. But the main thing with this is that he will not be president of the United States during his lifetime.
Well,
you can't be racist.
That's partly because of that, but it's also partly because of the way he's answered questions during his performances in the debates have been terrible. Well, I mean, he doesn't seem like he thinks on his feet very well. He doesn't seem like he has well thought out platforms on some.
No, he's not very smart. He's not very smart. If you knew you had that, if I knew I had that in my background, and I knew it's going to come up, and if I hadn't fixed that or paid somebody off, paid Al Sharpton off for somebody off to get me out of it, I would not have. And they take money.
Can you pay me off?
Man, they get paid, bro. I'd have paid Al off and brought him down there and said, it was a terrible transition and.
So you would have had Al be the spokesperson.
Absolutely, I would not even gotten into it.
I hate to agree with you, but I think that politics is strategic, and if you know you're considering, then you say, "Okay, I'm going to hire somebody to do this,
take care of that,
or I'm going to craft an answer that addresses this before it even comes out."
Yeah.
You're proactive, and I'd hate to say. No, he's not.
Not
politically smart.
I'm politically smart. Okay, if you're just joining us, we're listening to the Another View Roundtable with Roger Chesley, columnist for the Virginian-Pilot, political science professor Carol Pretlow, and community activist Bill Thomas. And we're talking about all things political right now. President Obama's jobs bill, not unexpected, but ran into a big brick wall on Thursday when the Senate said, nope.
Well,
can the president at this point catch a break?
Well, I'm not so sure I think he's trying to do the best he can with the cards he has, but I'm not so sure he really expected that it was going to get through. His job was to lay out the choices and to let the American people see that he thought he was doing something good for the country, and Congress is not going to let him. And why he waited so long to move on this, we talked about this a little bit last month, I think also. Why he waited so long on this is just amazing. Wasn't smart politically. He finally addressed it. He finally tried to push something through. I'm not surprised it hasn't gotten through in its form. Now it's going to be a question of, okay, does he really want to negotiate, or does he say, I did what I needed to do. Republicans, you take the hit for this at the ballot box next year.
Miss Political Science.
I think you're right, Roger. I think that what he did was positioned it so that this could be a win for him. He can say, I did everything possible. I did what I could do. And maybe he's not going to address that timing issue that you mentioned, but he'll say, okay, it's out of my hands. I did what I can do. It's in the Republicans' court.
Mr. Republican?
Oh, I wouldn't go there. Actually, I'm more Tea Party tending because Republicans are not too much different than the Democrats. To tell you the honest God truth, I'm Tea Party, tax enough already.
You saying Tea Party is like the Democrats?
No, I'm saying the
Republicans. Yes, okay.
Yes, they're just like the Democrats for the most part. So since I've been taxed enough already, the Tea Party works well with me. But in terms of job creation and what Mr. Obama took on and this particular matter with his jobs bill is that the Democrats in the Senate didn't vote for it.
Exactly.
So he is in.
Yeah, and all the Republicans too.
Oh, that's political. The Republicans, if they're smart politically, will do nothing. I mean, why?
Well, they've done that. Yeah. They've done something to say no to anything that he's tried to push forward.
Absolutely, that's political.
But the American people are being held hostage in this.
But I have to admit, I was somewhat surprised that Democrats control the Senate, so you got your vice president there, and I was thinking, okay, this is a done deal.
Yeah, you got to get the 60 votes for cloture, though.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's what the Republicans have used, that procedural tactic to pretty much hold up anything of value that could get through that particular chamber.
But the slap in the face where he doesn't even get the majority of the Senate votes, which is controlled by the Democrats, that's pretty weak. And I think Mr. Obama has tried to do the best he could. I think he got lost because you have to use fear and pure power to get what you did and what you need. And when he had the Senate and the House, he should have enforced his will on all the things that were important, and not Obamacare, but he should have worked his way on jobs. And
that was health care.
Obamacare, and try to get that squared away. He should have focused on jobs and opportunities for people. People want something.
Well, you mentioned fear and power, and go back to one of my favorites was Lyndon Johnson in terms of exercising power, and Truman. But the reality is when he even gives an inclination that he's going to use fear or power, then the opposite side comes out, oh, well, he needs to be less combative. It's almost like he can't win.
No. President has to be powerful. President has to use the anvil to shape the nation's will, and you can't let anybody take that anvil away from you. You got to pound it, and some people have got to get out of the way, and if they don't, you hit them across the head with the anvil and break it.
Yeah, like I said, Lyndon Johnson would have agreed.
Yeah, I think he spent a lot of time, probably too much time, trying to be conciliatory to a group that had no desire to
and that's been a complaint that people have had across the board, is that the effort to be conciliatory it really hasn't gotten us anywhere.
I actually go ahead.
I was going to say maybe that effort to be conciliatory comes from two perspectives. Maybe that's his personality, and maybe, too, it's by way of training, learning negotiation as a professor and being very professorial in his approach to things.
So he wasn't ready for the job?
I'm not saying he wasn't ready for the job. I'm saying that those two things or those factors of his personality and his training may have contributed to his saying, well, let's negotiate. Maybe I can bring people down to the middle.
I think he actually thought that he could bring a slightly different tone to Washington. And I don't know why it took him.
The political machine is too tough.
Right. I don't know why he took as long as he did to kind of maintain that stance.
Could you envision Obama versus Cain in this country for president?
No.
It would be a great time for psychiatric help in this country if that happens. I think there will be some craziness going on in this country if that actually happens.
It would.
Agreed.
I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think it's
so you don't think that Cain is going to stay at the top?
I don't know, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think if that happened, one would be replaced.
Okay,
Clinton
which
would
one?
replace Obama, or something would happen.
Well, nobody will replace Obama unless something sinister happens.
Because if the two of those people ran, you had a Cain, Obama, there would be a third party.
See that I
Carol,
agree with you
agree
there
with that?
because I did this in class and I asked them if both gentlemen won, which one would they pick? And nobody wanted to say, maybe because we come from an HBCU, and they were saying, well, we want to support. And I said, wouldn't that force you to look at the policies and look at not just the political maneuvering, but you would be looking at how can this be done? How can that be done? You would be looking at policies and implementation of those policies and political theories that go into those rather than just the game.
It's going to be real interesting now because Herman Cain, I don't know if he really thought he was going to be this far ahead in the polls at this time. He's going to get a lot more scrutiny from the press than he has had so far. And he's really going to have to come up with some specific proposals that he thinks are going to work. You're seeing that in his whole 999 plan, whether it's really workable.
Exactly.
There are several critiques that suggest, well, this would be great for the rich, but it's not going to be very good for the lower and middle class. They'd actually have a bigger tax bite.
Eugene Robinson brought up in his column today, he was saying that people are looking at Cain because he at least has a specific plan. Now, the plan may not be good, but he has a specific plan versus Romney, versus Perry, who just say, we're going to change things. Bill?
Right. I agree. But, again, if those two were the head of the two parties, there's 3 or 4 good third-party candidates that could split the difference and win easily, in my judgment.
Okay.
That'll be interesting. One other thing I'll just say is don't sell Romney short. He's done this before. There's some analysis of him that he is pretty much where, but not necessarily being in second place right now to Cain, but he's pretty much where he expected to be in terms of the numbers, and that he is built for the long haul. He has built somewhat like Obama was for years, 2008, and he has a particular strategy on how to win these individual contests. And he's gonna follow that out. And it'll be interesting to see if his Mormonism plays against, how much it plays against him. But I really would be surprised if he doesn't win the GOP nomination.
Carol?
Yeah. Another interesting question is just hypothetically, what if both men won the nominations from their party? Which one do you think would win?
So answer your question. Which one do you think would win?
I have no idea. At this point, I would think that I'm afraid that Obama would not win.
So you really think Herman Cain could possibly win if he were to run against the president today?
Well, today, because that 999 plan is specific, people can read it and understand it, and that's just the hypothetical. It's usually when reality hits the fan that people say, this isn't going to work. Mm-hmm. But as a hypothetical, yeah.
Cain would win because Obama needs 95% of the black vote there's 48% Democrats, there's 42% Democrats and 42% Republicans, there's 15 or 16% independents, and then all the missions in the roll. Obama would need 95% of the black vote to win in that contest. He would not get it. Cain would get at least 10, 15, 20%.
I'm still not sure that people are sure that Cain is sincere about running for this, and if they really feel comfortable with him. He said some things that have been kind of out there. So
like what?
Oh, the whole thing about the whether this plan is really workable, the number of pages of congressional bills, stuff like that.
The three pages.
I think
but that's what people want to hear.
I think people
aren't these people thinking in the clouds like you, professor, and you, little editorial writer. People are down here on the earth.
Or like you,
they want to hear
advancement person at Hampton University.
No, I am a grassroots individual people.
You play that
a community organizer.
Sell that with somebody who really wants to believe it, okay?
And that's what we want to hear.
Okay, I'm scared if you're grassroots.
Martin Luther King Memorial will be dedicated this weekend. Had to stop the plans back in August because of Hurricane Irene. Haven't heard much about it. Doesn't seem to be a lot of buzz around it. What happened?
Shameful. Absolutely shameful.
Shameful that you don't hear the buzz? Or shameful
that
we're dedicating
we're not taking that up as to the seriousness of what it is and the dedication of what that man did, giving his life and liberty, not only to African Americans, but to all America. And for us not to be excited, for us not to be participating, for us not to be saying, let's do it again, let's get up here and let's celebrate this thing. You don't hear anything about it. It's frightening. It's shameful, and I'm really disappointed.
I'm not going to say it's shameful. There was a lot of excitement originally back in August when we were heading toward the particular dedication, and I know some people still from the D.C. area still try to get down there that particular weekend. And plus, it's not like it's closed off. It's there on the mall, so you can actually see it. So, yeah, maybe there should be some more buzz, but the fact that it has actually been out there and open for a couple of months now, I'm not totally surprised by that. And I don't feel it's quite as shameful as you suggest.
It's shameful.
The reality is, too, that there was much more publicity and advertising about the event when it was scheduled before. And now, if you're a person that goes to the internet and all of that, you can find it. But the ads that used to be out there aren't there. The cost has increased in terms of some people in parking and that sort of thing. So all of those are effects.
Okay. Daniel joins us from Hampton. Hi, Daniel. You're on the air.
Hey, I got in late on the conversation, but I just wanted to throw out for one thing, like a Chinese guy made that sculpture.
Amen.
Yeah.
And that's shameful. With Chinese granite, that's shameful. And the fact they gave $25 million and black folks around here didn't make sure that didn't happen. That's shameful. You're right, sir.
Oh yeah, but my original thought was, well, I was part of the Obama mania at first, but now I'm looking at Ron Paul because he seems to be saying a lot more interesting things than these other guys. I mean, interesting, just like Kucinich was saying interesting things. Now, he's not a handsome guy. Ron Paul will probably never make it because he's not handsome. But that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thanks, Daniel, for the call. Back to the granite. What now?
The granite was even shipped from China.
Yes, and it was a Chinese
not
sculptor.
Not from Vermont, and a Chinese sculpture. I mean, that's shameful. It's shameful. I mean, it's really.
So, is your point that it should have been an American sculptor and American product, or it should have been an African American?
It should have been a black person as the sculpture,
well,
and we should
and
not
do you
have.
Think that's all of that goes into the lack of interest for it being this weekend? I mean, I would say that most people don't even know that the granite was from China,
and that's shameful.
Well, that might be shameful.
But Bill, let me play devil's advocate for a second, because people say that Martin Luther King was about equality for everybody. So should it matter that it wasn't a black sculptor?
Martin Luther King was a black man with a black wife with black children who tried to bring around a commonality of interest about American owning up to what it rightfully owed us. And he did that. But in terms of the precepts where Martin Luther King did to bridge that divide from making people understand that there was a penalty to be paid if we didn't have diversity in this country, and what he did, and for all he did for me and us sitting around this table in this room as black people, for us not to have taken over that project and had the 107 HBCUs with Norfolk State and all of our schools getting together, getting our kids involved in it, getting our inner city kids involved in writing quotes and things that should go on there, getting the granting from Vermont and having people actually do it here, to me, I can't even understand.
So what explains the initial interest and then the lack of interest now? Now, all of that might be true, so that would have contributed to there being a lack of interest even in the beginning. But what happened between the 16th and now?
Well, let me just address some of the stuff that Bill is talking about. I mean, some of this is an old story. We had a group of people who, first of all, as I recall, it was a fraternity member who came up with the idea, really pushed it. Okay, so
from the Alphas, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Okay. So, and if I'm not mistaken, the MLK was an Alpha. Secondly, as I recall, there was a group of people who helped decide who was going to be the sculptor, and it seems to me you would want to get somebody who had the ability to do an excellent job on this, and that group came up with this particular individual. This is an old story. I mean, this has all been hashed out before. I think we should get somebody who was competent to do this and who had the expertise to do this, and this is who this particular committee came up with. So that does not.
But and the other thing you got to remember too, the committee, if I'm not mistaken, was predominantly African American. If it wasn't all African American,
just because your skin is black doesn't mean your mind is black.
These
were a bunch of Uncle Tom people disconnected from their communities, didn't have a sense of what we suffer to get to the point.
So you're an Uncle Tom if you don't select a black person.
No, I didn't say that.
That is basically what you said. You know, you're trying to clean it up now.
No, I'm not trying to clean it up. You know the people I'm talking about. Don't sit here and act like you don't know who I'm talking about. Don't act like we know this.
You know what? Sometimes I just have to tune you out.
Well,
sometimes you're tuned out. You're dead to me for the rest of this broadcast.
Well,
dead to me.
That's your choice. This is America.
Okay, well, before you guys kill each other.
This is America. For you to understand what I'm not saying, and, you know, we could go through it if you want to, for me, it's ludicrous. You understand what I'm saying? These people don't have any interest of the African American community. That's why they don't care if 350,000 of us have died over the past 20 years or come back to their community. They don't care if Norfolk Public Schools, which is 70% black, and the kids aren't graduating. I mean, don't give me that. Where are these people?
This was who is the best person to do this particular work.
Best selected person.
Let's not get it too twisted.
It is
Bill, you're really getting kind of off center.
No,
on
I'm
this
not,
one.
because I think that I believe in everybody. I don't believe in things.
So we should have picked you then.
I'm not a sculptor. I'm not one.
But this was the person who this body considered the best person
because
to do
they
this.
gave them $25 million. That's what the Chinese gave them. And everything in America works regardless of color. The one color that makes things happen is green.
Well,
so don't act naive.
Go ahead, Carol.
If that's true, then if everything that works in this country is green and we are part of this country, and you say you are not African American, you are just American,
then
correct. Why not have the Chinese do this, because you're contributing to a racially diverse climate for the country? So what is wrong with that?
I have a right to choose who I like and who I want to work with, too. That's part of the mix.
Okay, last topic.
So take that where you want to take it,
because we're running out of time. We're going to bring it home locally for just a moment. Sandra Smith-Jones, school board member of Virginia Beach School Board, has a job in Saudi Arabia. She's holding on right now to her position, and there's a lot of question about what's the advantage. Why would this happen, Roger? I know you've covered this.
Yeah. And I haven't had a chance to talk to her directly. We have at least emailed each other a couple of times. It does look as if she could be very near to actually resubmitting a resignation. It will be interesting to see if she actually does this next week. But it's somewhat complex, partly because of the system that's used in Virginia Beach. Even when you represent on the city council and the school board a particular district, you have to run citywide. she has been concerned and complained about the way appointments are selected there, and when open seats come up where somebody doesn't go necessarily to the voters, but you have a vacancy and the folks left on the board actually pick who the vacancy
would be filled by.
Right, and she is just one of 2 black members on the board, and as I did in one column recently, talked about how that process where somebody was selected and whether she was really the best qualified person that was selected. This would have been a Miss McLeod when they had an earlier vacancy. One of the people that she leapfrogged over was a top educator at Norfolk State. And so I think in that respect, she did a service in saying, are we doing the best thing that we should be when vacancies come up on the board, when people who are already at-large members get put over in the districts? That's one of her was one of her issues too. However, there's no way she can do the job from Saudi Arabia. She knew that, and I'm not exactly sure if this was the best way to bring that protest about.
Mm-hmm. You had a different take, Bill, didn't you?
Oh, absolutely. I just think it's insanity. It's selfishness. She wants to get paid some more money. There's no other alternative to it because Roger, who doesn't want to think I exist right now, who does she want on the board? She want another black person to replace her? Is that what she wants?
I think more than
No.
I said
okay.
I think more than anything else, she wants somebody who actually had been living in that particular district that she represented. I'm pretty sure it's the Kempsville district. First of all, not somebody who would be transferred over and who had just moved to Kempsville and is planning on who's on the board right now and is planning to run for city council. So that's one of the issues. And secondly, she wants somebody who actually lives in the district and has the concerns of the district at heart. And I think that was a big part of this
now, that
protest.
person she's looking for want to be black?
She hasn't really said to me whether it was black or white.
Wants, but that's what she wants. So it's no issue. It's no really.
Well, there's only 2 blacks on the board right now, and I think, and she being one of them, and I think that is part of her concern too. And there's only one black who was selected to the city council recently.
Roger, you've had the opportunity to email her back and forth, but this type of information really hasn't come out because she refuses to talk.
She hasn't been talking to us.
To the media, and so I think people are confused because they don't know anything about her position and about this.
She has been it's been very difficult to get her for one-on-ones and to discuss this. And it's been somewhat frustrating because our reporter who's been covering this, Mike Hicksonbaugh, he was not aware of her, as the general public wasn't really aware that she had taken back that initial resignation until about the time she had left to go to Saudi Arabia. Mm-hmm. So it's been very difficult to really question her at length about, just
Meanwhile,
what her
motivations are.
Meanwhile, the
school board has decided to move on and to reassign her
some of her assignments
to
other board members
and so forth. Okay, we got about 3 minutes left. I'm going to let one of y'all jump out and talk about. Actually, Lisa says 2 minutes left. We promised our viewers we would come back with a group that is helping the community. Roger, I know you had one.
Yeah, there's one I've been very impressed with. It's called Reach, Reading Enriches All Children. I wrote a column about them earlier this summer. And what I like about them is they don't spend a whole lot of money, yet they take books and reading sessions into homeless and domestic violence shelters. It seems to be a very worthwhile organization. And many of the kids that I actually saw at one of these shelter sessions, they were African American or Latino. So it seems to be very good for the community.
Okay, and Bill, you had one.
Park Place School, a little private school that's teaching African Americans at 35th and Colonial. They teach about 20 kids. They take them from Monroe School. Those kids are doing absolutely excellent. And what I have decided to do is to help them raise $25 million with some businesses and work with the governor, who I've talked to try to make that a legalized lab charter school, and then try to take that template and take it across the country, but especially in Virginia to start with. So I'm committed to that. Talked to Major League Baseball about that, got some interest, and so we're going to move forward.
Good for you.
Well, now that I know that you're doing that, because they've also contacted us about wanting to talk about their programs.
Bring them. They're good people.
So we'll have to check them out.
They heard about us doing some stuff that's good.
Okay.
So I contacted them.
Fantastic.
Good.
All right. Roundtable for October. Thank you guys so much for being with me. We really appreciate it. We'll be back in November, second Friday in November. Thank you, Mr. Bill Thomas, community activist, Carol Pretlow, political science professor at Norfolk State University, and Roger Chesley, who is a columnist for the Virginian-Pilot.
Maybe Bill will be alive to me by
then. Maybe Bill will come back to life. Absolutely.
Go Pirates, and what's that other school over
Oh,
here?
that's right. It's the Battle of the Bay this weekend.
Go Pirates.
And go Spartans.
All right.
bad.
There you go.
Playing.
And we'll be right back.
No more call to war. Unless it's love and peace that we're really fighting for. We can destroy hunger. We can conquer hate. Put down the arms and raise your voice. We're joining hands today. I was looking for a song to sing. Search for a leader, but the leader was me. Can be heroes, just go on and say if you're out there, sing along with me if you're out there.
All right. Lots of things happening in Hampton Roads. One special event is going on this afternoon. The C. Waldo Scott Center for Hope, whose mission is to give hope to families and develop the whole child, is going green today at 4 p.m. They're located on Wickham Avenue in Newport News, and the community is invited to see a tree planting and listen to kids recite poems about why it's important to save our planet. The center is able to go green through a generous contribution from Johnson Controls, Inc. The Surry County African American Family Reunion is actually happening this weekend. It was rained out twice since August, first by Hurricane Irene and then by nasty thunderstorms in September. But no worries, you can fellowship, eat wonderful food, and celebrate the roots of African American families on Saturday and Sunday at the Surry County Community Center on Enos Farm Road in Surry. Go to anotherviewradio.org to find out more information. And you're also invited to the 10th annual Mix It Up Tea at the YWCA Southampton Roads on Wednesday, October 19th at 3:30 in the afternoon. More than 2 million people from all over the United States attend Mix It Up events where you are encouraged to have high tea, sit with someone new, and have dialogue. Mix It Up fosters unity, understanding, and raises awareness about social and racial boundaries. And you can find out more on our website. And finally, a huge congratulations to my sister friend, Barbara Sierra, managing editor and anchor at News Channel 3. Tomorrow evening in Bethesda, Maryland, she is being inducted into the National Capital Chesapeake Bay chapter of the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences Silver Circle. This is an exclusive Hall of Fame recognition for broadcast journalists who produce outstanding contributions for more than 25 years. The National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences are the ones who award the coveted Emmy Awards. Barbara, you are an awesome journalist and a great friend, and I am incredibly proud of you. Looking forward to a great time watching you get the honors that you deserve. Thanks so much for being a wonderful audience. We appreciate you joining us every Friday. Next week, author, professor, and political pundit Melissa Harris Perry. She's just written a new book called Sister Citizen, Shame, Stereotypes, and Black Women in America. It should be a great discussion. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Have a wonderful weekend and join us next Friday at noon for another view.